Welcome to the Consulting Leaders Podcast, where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Guillaume Jouvencel, ex-PwC and co-founder of GHA Marketing. Join me as I interview the best consultants in their niche. Let's get on with the show. Caroline, welcome to Consulting Leaders. Happy to have you.
Thank you.
Talk to me about ESG consulting, sustainability consulting, and how tough of a spot it is right now.
It's not as fashionable as it was, that's for sure. But actually, we work mainly with UK-based companies, and we're still finding that certainly in the UK, there's still a want, there's still a need and an understanding that this is a long-term problem that has to be addressed. So some of our American clients perhaps change stance, but certainly for the UK ones, we're doing okay.
That does make a lot of sense. So what got you into all this in the first place, Caroline?
Well, I'm not actually an eco warrior. I really like problem solving. And so actually my background is working in finance. I worked for an investment bank for a long time. And that was great. Loved all the numbers, problems and so forth. But it did kind of lack a bit of a bigger picture purpose. So had an interest in sustainability. I went and retrained, did a master's actually in project management in construction, but then following that went to work for a construction company, and they asked me to look at their sustainability, and I just loved it because it's so broad, it's so complex. One day I can be looking at modern slavery, I can be looking at, women in construction. The next day I can be looking at waste and carbon figures. And I just love that kind of breadth of challenge, the depth and the detail behind it. And it's just a really exciting, changing space to be in.
So actually, that's an interesting one. How do you go from the golden handcuffs of investment banking? Stressful world with some drawbacks, obviously. But when you think about investment banking, and there are some that are focusing more and more on ESG, but that's not going to be the main focus, right? And I understand lack of impact, not as meaningful. But what makes someone take the leap and make the change in their career to go into such a space, coming from investment banking?
For me personally, I got promoted, and I didn't want to. They do the promotions once a year, and I was moving up that corporate ladder, and I was on a kind of global desk working all hours, and I knew that was it. Big pay rise. You always adapt your lifestyle to that pay, and I thought, I'm not going to do that. So I quit the next day.
Wow.
Which is probably not what you're meant to do. But yeah, I just knew I did it for 5 or 6 years, and I was like, this is it. If I don't get out now, I never will.
It's so funny. I think on a different level, Big Four consulting is similar, at least in terms of career path. So I feel you, and that does make a lot of sense. All right, tell me about the problem that you're solving now. Like, what is it that you help companies achieve now?
Yeah, so we work with clients that basically get pressure from their investors or from their customers to do something in the ESG or GHG space. So that might be that they need to do a net zero plan. They might need to have some policies, but they typically come to us because they've had the odd requests and they've perhaps reactively responded to it, but now they're getting more. They don't know how to prioritize. They're not really sure what they're being asked to do. And they come to us really to help them with that, to work through what it is that they need to do and which bits they don't need to do as well in order to add value to their business and obviously to their investors or customers.
So let's get a bit into the details of this. How do you... Okay, let me rephrase this. How does that pressure materialize? Is it like, hey, you need to do this or we close the company? Is it, hey, we are more and more concerned about what we're buying and who we are buying from and what practices they have? So is it coming from the customer side? Is it coming from the investor with what agenda? And what's the outcome of all this? Why is that a problem in the first place? That's 2 questions. I'll let you pick the order you want to answer.
Yeah, so I think most of our clients are B2B businesses, right? So the to win their clients, they often have to fill out tenders, formal documentation in order to win that work. And what they're finding is that included in that documentation and the minimum requirements that those clients had, they'll say things like you must have policies on the environment, you must have measured your carbon footprint, you might have to have a sustainability policy or a sustainability strategy. And so if they can put those in place, they will increase their score and more likely win their work with the client. Now, in reality, they're not normally deal breakers, so it's normally done on a kind of scoring-based system, but they want to be able to win that work, and particularly in industries like construction and pharmaceuticals, which kind of link back at some point to the government, and the government has some procurement requirements that kind of get cascaded down. So really they're doing it to win those big contracts. From an investor side, we certainly think for mid-market investors, there's a whole swathe of them that have recognized that it increases the exit value of the company. So when the investor invests in the company, they have a number of things they want to improve, and obviously to increase the value of the company. And one of those is often around ESG. And so lots of investors these days have their own ESG frameworks, and they expect their portfolio companies to implement policies, diversity and inclusion plans and net zero plans and the like. And they genuinely feel that the company will be worth more on exit for that. And so, again, there's a clear business value case for any company with that investor or customer angle to put in place something in this area.
And so that's me picking your brain here. But can you give me some tactical examples of how one can improve the value of their company by implementing certain ESG practice, policies, whatsoever? Like, what are some practical examples of this?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of increasing the value of your company, it's about de-risking. So, for example, the obvious thing to put into place at the very first stage of your journey is to put into place a code of conduct, where you have a load of policies on a load of things, and that investors can then see that you've put in place the minimum. So, as an example, something investors might ask about is, do you give political donations? Now, most companies won't give any political donations, but they won't have a piece of paper with that written down on. So putting statements like that, and also statements on a whole host of other topics around bribery, environment, community, etc., in one place, and saying that these are the principles that we live by, that immediately gives the investor or potential buyer some kind of awareness of how that company operates, and that you've understood some of those risks, and that you're not going to fall into that trap. I say that that's very much step one, but if you go a step beyond that and you've really done what's called a materiality exercise, where you've assessed how your business impacts on different environment, social and governance issues, and how they impact on your business, you come out with what's called a materiality matrix, which is a real visual representation of the company's risks. And then following that, you can then develop a strategy to reduce those risks and capitalize on any opportunities. But investors love that, because they don't know your business. They don't know whether you're producing hazardous waste or whether you've got a problem with diversity in your industry. But if you've done a materiality exercise, you can present that back to them, say, look, these are the challenges we face, and then this is what we're doing about it. And it also gives you the confidence to say to investors, actually, water is not an issue, or whatever it might be for our business. We've done an assessment to verify that. Therefore, we don't need to have a water reduction plan. So it really helps, prioritize what companies do, but give investors confidence on that risk side of things.
That does make a lot of sense. Who is it that you target specifically now? Like, do you have a specific industry, specific company size? Like, who is it that you help?
So as I kind of mentioned, we mainly do mid-market, mid to large kind of companies with private equity investors, or in industries with high customer expectations. So we do a lot in the pharmaceutical space, we do a lot in construction. We also do a lot of just software, professional services, that kind of thing as well. So we are industry agnostic, but more often than not B2B. There's the odd B2C business. But
B2B mid-markets, do you have... So I see how this could be pretty much industry agnostic, but at the same time, there's going to be some industries that are much more prone to, water waste, or I don't know how you phrased it, hazardous material waste kind of things. Do you target those more because you know that's going to be a bigger, more painful problem for them, or not so much?
We don't. I mean, actually, I think that's the benefit of being a small business, that we target what's interesting. So for us, we work with we also work with food, for example, and retail. For us, it's just really fascinating to learn about another industry. And one of the things that we do with the materiality exercise is really immerse ourselves in that company, that industry, and learn about it. But the benefit of being across multiple industries is that we can then apply the learning from one industry to another industry. So, as an example, there's a construction company that had been around for a long time that had a really great framework for how they spoke to their clients to encourage them to choose to make their buildings more sustainable. At the end of the day, a construction company will only build what the client's willing to pay. We took that to a food manufacturer. It was a chilled meal manufacturer, had the same principle. They can only cook the lasagnas and the shepherd's pies and the whatevers that the big supermarkets are willing to pay for, and the ingredients and the packaging is what they're willing to pay for. So we applied that same principle, saying, well, you can't change really what you're producing, but what you can do is develop a framework and a way of talking to your customers that enables them to request that you can make that change. And that's how you make the difference. So, that's just one example of how you can apply learning across industries. And as I mentioned, from a personal perspective, it just keeps the work really interesting when we learn about a new sector.
That makes a lot of sense. How do you brand all that, Caroline? How do you market? So you have a clear positioning in terms of offering, but at the same time, you can help pretty much any industry. So what has worked for you to attract those mid-market companies to come to you and knock at your door to be like, hey, I'm not ready to buy yet. If you manage to do that, please let us know. But at least hey, I want to have a conversation. What has worked for you marketing-wise?
Yeah, I would say it's not our strong point, but the way we get our work mainly is we get referrals, we get repeat work, and Google Ads has been great. In terms of kind of marketing, I guess, broaden that, LinkedIn, we do get a fair bit of traction from, but we've only just this last week started outbound marketing. This is an area that we really need to probably improve and get our profile raised.
So, my God, I love this because I'm going to talk to a lot of consultants who are going to be like, oh yeah, I don't need to do marketing, and I'm like, oh, why is that? We work mainly on referrals, which means it's not predictable, right? It's not marketing. It's just byproduct of doing a good job. And you're doing LinkedIn, you're doing Google Ads, so you're doing some stuff. Tell me more about Google Ads. It's very rare that I get the opportunity to ask questions around this. So why this channel? How do you make it work? And if consultants want to start doing the same, the ones listening to us, what should they think about to acquire customers with Google Ads?
So I'm not the tech expert. Somebody else does that side of it. But what I would say is it worked really well for us initially because, so Rawstone's been around 7-8 years. And ESG at that time was kind of known as sustainability. So there were lots of sustainability consultants and very few ESG consultants, but the investor world refers to it as ESG. So we quite quickly positioned our ads as ESG and found ourselves getting loads of inquiries. And so I think it's about finding a way to sort of niche yourself or position yourself slightly differently to the others for that to be effective. The Google Ads still works well for us, but yeah, in terms of exactly the wording and all that, I'm afraid we do have somebody else who does that for me, so I'm not entirely sure.
Fair enough. I'd love to have them on the show. So from the LinkedIn, from the Google Ads, and legacy as well, right? If you're around for 7 to 8 years overall, you develop a brand awareness that people will get attracted to at some point. My God, I'm losing my English. How do you move from that to a conversation, a sales conversation, an SOW, a letter of engagement, let's rock and roll? What does the sales motion look like for you, Caroline?
Yeah, so from our perspective, normally they reach out to us via email or whatever. So we would then set up a phone call to discuss it. And that's really a listening call. So I think key for any consultant is to really understand the problem that they're coming to you with before you start thinking about the solution. We then produce our proposals, and we go into quite a lot of depth on those. So all of our proposals will have project plans. We try to present them very nicely. We put some quotes and testimonials and that sort of thing. We will send the proposal to the client. We normally would follow up perhaps with some relevant case studies, and just generally check in to see if they want to talk through anything. And then we just kind of keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best.
See, I mean, I love this, and because you're saying that marketing is not your forte, but you've clearly nailed down the funnel. So a few things I want to double down on here, because again, that's valuable, and I think some consultants will learn from it. Whatever the acquisition channel, most people will rely on referrals, but even for that, what you want to do is think about the funnel in the sense of brand awareness, problem awareness, solution awareness, authority, trust, and then the cost of the pain or the cost of the problem being greater than the cost of change. And this is when people decide to take action. The first call might happen anywhere at the funnel as of brand awareness. Doesn't mean that they're ready to buy yet. But building that problem awareness, solution awareness, authority, trust with case studies. And B2B coaches and consultants listening to us right now, they have that, but they don't use it. But proactively, gently pushing it to the deals that you have in the pipeline, like, hey, our conversation made me think of a client who, wink, wink, looks exactly like you and does the same thing as you, was struggling with the same thing. Here is how we help, and here are the results. Keep on building that trust and authority whilst in the sales cycle, not just hoping that the client is going to sign, is how you're going to sign more deals. So very good thing that you're doing it, and thanks for bringing it up.
Oh, thank you.
Talk to me about... Go ahead.
Sorry, no, actually, there was one other thing, a change that we made about 6 months ago, and I'll just share it in case it's helpful for the consultants. It had a big impact for us, was after the point of contacting us, and we set up the meeting then, via Calendly type link. In that time between the meeting being set up and the meeting being held, we also then email our bios, so they get a copy in advance with a picture of us and, a very brief bio on each. But they seem to love that, and it also means people turn up. And then you don't need to waste the time telling them how wonderful you are, because they already know how wonderful you are, which means you can really focus on listening in the meeting. And we've had 2 or 3 clients acknowledge, write back to us something nice about that email, and that they really appreciated it. So I think it's a really easy thing to do that, potentially might help others.
I love this. Tell me more. So it's always I love this. So you're getting me onto the topic that I love, obviously, marketing. So there is a thin line between being centered on the prospect and their problems, and also advertising yourself and what you do at the same time. Both are needed. You just need to thread carefully as to not being fully self-centered, but also not only being like, hey, you have a problem, it's painful, do you want to buy? How did you go about crafting that email with your bios, Caroline? Like, is it a quick overview of your experiences and then pictures? Is it like, hey, we've done this, and that, or this is the reason we are doing this, mission-driven? How did you craft that email?
We have a basic template, which is quite short. So it has a kind of one-liner just saying, we're really looking forward to speaking to you ahead of our call. Just sort of, you might be interested to know, these are the people on the call. And I also always make the point to say, these are the people that would be working on the project should it proceed, so that they know there's nobody else. This is it. There's no it's not subcontracted out to anyone else. And then it's a picture of me and whoever else is doing the project, about a paragraph of text just about us, very short. And then normally the last couple of sentences I tailor specific to that industry. So if it was a built environment project, I would be referencing, we've worked on similar projects for these clients, name dropping, or referencing the similar projects, basically, but no detail, nothing else. And occasionally we put a case study link at the bottom to our website so they can click on it if they want. But it's less is more, but tailored. So we do, although we have a template, we do tailor it for each one.
Preach. And just to double down on this, hopefully it will speak to some people. We do something similar, and we started helping some of our clients do the same, and it's crushing it. It's exactly the same thing, Caroline. in a video. I mean, what you're doing is a sales letter, technically. If we use marketing terms, it's a bit more than this. You tailor it, right? It's not like just copy paste, automated into the funnel, which I think is important for high tickets. The way we do this and the way we help our clients craft the same messaging is with a video. And it's like, we need to keep it short, 5, 10, 15 minutes max. It's like, hey, here is a video that will probably answer some of the questions that you have around how this all work and how we typically work, and a little bit about our background and what we've done as well. Video, face, they see there is a human, you tell a bit the story, the mission driven, the type of results that you've gotten. And now all the questions that you typically need to answer into a first call, like, okay, so tell me, what is it that you do exactly? Or how do you help? Or like, it's already tackled, so you can focus on them. This accelerates the sales cycle like crazy. I'm saying this because you can do video, but you can also 100% do text, whatever you feel the most comfortable with, and also what your audience responds with the best. Which text testing, and this is maybe a bit more advanced, but like nurturing the leads, especially when it's inbound, crazy good at accelerating sales cycles. Thanks for bringing that up. Talk to me about retention. So you did it, you signed the new clients and new engagements. The partner that kind of taught me everything was like, Guillaume, there are two types of consultants. There are the hunters and the farmers. It's not good or bad. It's just two different approaches. He was like, I'm a hunter. I love the smell of fresh blood in the morning. I love to go after new business. That's my jam. And he was like, the partners who bring in the most money, though, are the farmers, the ones who are able to take that initial engagement, over-deliver, and transform it into a multi-layered, multi-year project, potentially involving other teams from the firm. Like, this is where the money is. You're very good at hunting, Caroline, although you're saying that it's not your forte. How do you retain? How do you farm?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think there's probably more we can do in this space. There's two kind of natural ways. So after we've worked with a client on a project, we do offer a retainer service, and we don't do that for clients we don't know, because we just can't be as valuable, basically. A retainer for us is being available when they need us to respond to, maybe review a policy they want to update, or respond to a specific customer bid or something like that. We need to have that background context. So we have a retainer service. It's not huge, it's not for a large amount of hours, but they like having us on tap, basically. And then the second thing is that certain projects that we do naturally have a repeat cycle. So if we do a carbon footprint, then that would come around every year. So normally we would continue engage, a relationship of some sort with the client, keeping in touch, and then come the following year, approach them if they haven't already approached us to say, would you like us to do that project again? Is it gold standard in terms of farming? No. But is it a starting point? Yes.
It's so funny. I think you're underselling yourself a bit, Caroline. If I may say, this is great. I mean, most consultants will do the project, and then, so let me put some nuance to this. I think as a consultant, our job should be to fire ourselves at some point. Like, that's the whole point. People bring in an external resource to solve a specific problem, and then once we have to process the systems and potentially the hired resources for that, the consultant is no longer needed. Doesn't mean that there's not going to be the next project that we can work on. So that's not recurring, but reoccurring business. But then where the money really is indeed to have a way, a service to offer once that problem is solved, to retain as well. Like, hey, we did that big project together. This is solved. By the way, this is a list of things we're going to need. We can help with those 2 lines with like interim solutions or monthly consulting or masterminds or whatever it is. So this is fantastic. I think it's great. Okay, let me ask you a curveball then, Caroline, although I feel you've already answered to some of those. What's your number one challenge right now? What's the one thing, the one nut that you're trying to crack that once you crack, you're going to take the whole Rawstone consulting to the next level? What would that be for you?
Well, it is the marketing. So we have grown quite a bit over the last year. And so we've recruited some more people, and we've, we're getting our 9001, the processes and everything, we're all set up to go. But we do need to do more in the marketing space. So we are, as I mentioned, kind of starting the outreach side of things. I'm writing a book. We are hoping to really have a much more consistent inflow, not dependent on adverts that can be switched off at any time, basically. And linking that to AI as well, making sure that we're found in AI searches as well as web searches and all the stuff that you know about, I'm sure.
We only do one thing, it's podcasts. I mean, we have a bit of an understanding of AI, but far from being our domain of expertise. That makes a lot of sense. On the other side of the coin, what's the big opportunity that you see in your space in the next 3 to 6 months? Like, I think it's for your niche. I'm anticipating that question even more because everything happening with the current administration in the US, we see that this is being put on the back burner for certain institutions, certain companies. UK, Europe is a bit different. Also, although we see the stress, on the system of what net zero means, where everybody is running for energy and for data centers and for AI. So what would that be for you? What's the big opportunity that you see in your space that you're looking forward to work on?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. I think in terms of our competitors, you get a lot of large consultancies like the PwCs, and they are comparatively very expensive and offer quite an impersonal service, really, without necessarily having any kind of in-house experience. And on the other end, we get these software companies that say, well, you can do all your data and everything through a software. You don't need to have a brain to do it. And they're kind of a lower cost, but lower quality. People don't know what to do with the output, and the output's dubious as well. Whereas I think as a consultant, we bridge that gap. So we have the expertise, we can do the broad analysis, we love the numbers still, but we provide a very personal and tailored service. And I think companies still really want that. So I think that's really exciting for us. I think particularly on the America side of things, a trend that we've seen, I guess, unfortunately, is that in-house sustainability people and teams are getting smaller. And that means actually in the short term, that's been very good for us because those companies still have compliance. They still have stakeholder expectations to meet, and they have to go to consultants now because they can't afford to have an in-house resource. So actually that side's been good for us. I don't know if that will continue in the longer term, but we're not moving from this space. We haven't seen a drop off yet in demand. So I think we need to seize this opportunity and continue to grow.
That's very interesting. I didn't think about it this way, but yeah, indeed, since it's less of a priority, but there is still the momentum, the inertia created by everything that has been happening over the last few years. That would make a lot of sense that people look at externalizing this instead of. They don't have the resources internally, so they just go for people like you guys. Caroline, this was an absolute masterclass. Thank you so much for coming on Consulting Leaders. If people want to find out more about you, see what you do, where should they go?
Yeah, please go to the Rawstone Consulting website, or you can follow me on LinkedIn. It's Caroline Johnstone. There's not too many of us, so you should find me okay. And thank you so much for inviting me on the podcast.
It was my pleasure. We'll put all the links in the description. I can say one thing for sure, Caroline, is you've gained at least one new connection on LinkedIn out of this interview. Me, I just added you. Caroline, thank you so much for coming on Consulting Leaders.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Leaders Podcast. We hope you learned valuable lessons on how to grow your practice and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.